What's up, guys? What's up, YouTube? It is Saturday, September 11th. It's late, 11:28. Recording solo because I failed to prioritize and execute this week. Failed to get things done on time. And so when you don't get things done on time, you are failing to meet time crunches or time, whatever you want to call it. The timing of things, and it falls on you. So unfortunately, Dina and Etiana can't be here, or my wife. Like I said, it's 11:23. My mother-in-law's in town. I got people sleeping upstairs and downstairs, so hopefully I don't wake them. But I appreciate you guys joining. It's gonna be episode 36 of Atomic Habits. About to go live here in a sec and record. But yeah, so glad that you guys are here with me. And I hope you guys had a good week. I am ready to get this done and hopefully posted so it'll go out tomorrow. But again, thanks for joining me and allowing me to just do this. It's been good. And totally hate not getting to do this with my team because of my fault. So I'm learning, a little hard on myself when it comes to this, but we'll make it happen. So about to go live. Hopefully I don't wake anyone up, but here we go. Let me see what we got. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Make sure I got this. Check. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Made for More Consulting podcast. It is Mario here, flying solo tonight because Dina and Etiana are not here, and they are not here because of my fault. I had some things come up this week, and I just didn't get to recording the podcast, and so it is Saturday night. It is, I believe it's 11:30 p.m. This comes out tomorrow, so September 11th was a pretty good day. Not because the Longhorns lost. I hate that, but we got to remember what happened on September 11th, 20 years ago, where we were. You know, I'm sure some of you've had those conversations with your family, but and your friends, and just reminiscing where you were and just how that changed our country and who we are. Yeah, so tonight I have people. I just told YouTube, if you haven't logged on, you can just see it's just me in front of the phone. But I have my mother-in-law and my family here. They're asleep, so hopefully I don't wake anyone up, and we can get through this. It's episode 36 of Atomic Habits is our book that we're going over. We have one more podcast after this on Atomic Habits. This section is it's been good. I learned a little bit more. We're talking about the fourth law, the law of make it satisfying when you're creating a new habit. And so we've gone over the last 3 episodes of the different laws. So if you are just tuning in, it's your first time, a couple things that we usually say is thanks for joining with us. 2, go back and listen to episode like 33, 34, 35, and 36 will be this one, just so you can see where we're at. But we're going over the 4 laws. Number 1 is make it obvious, so we went over that. The second one is make it attractive. Third law is make it easy, which was last week, and today is make it satisfying. Learned a lot during this one. I hope you guys forgive me for not having my team here, and it's gonna be exciting. So flying solo. But before we kick off, I want to ask you guys. I asked a question on my social media this week, and I just said, hey, what are you guys reading? Or what are you learning? Like, what's life teaching you? So just real quick, if you have the opportunity to shoot me a message, Mario at madeformoreconsulting.com. Just tell me what book you're reading. Tell me what you're learning in life today and what life is teaching you. I got so many responses on my social media whenever I asked that this week, and it was good responses. I'm reading a new book. It's called let's see, it is called The Last Arrow, I believe. I'm trying to think through, is it The Last Arrow? Yeah, The Last Arrow, Save Nothing for the Next Life by Erwin McManus. Really good book. I would recommend it. I don't think we're going to go over it here, but it's a really good book for life. So thanks for joining. Again, let me talk to you guys about the fourth section of this book, and it's called Make It Satisfying. Again, remember, I'm not reading the entire book. We're going to jump into this and see what we can learn tonight together. So chapter 15, the cardinal rule of behavior change. So he opens up this chapter talking about a third world country, and they don't have a lot of things. And so what they did was they introduced washing their hands to these people. These people were sick and were getting sick. People were dying, and so they were malnourished, but they also knew that there was a lot of bacteria in the area. So they introduced washing their hands with soap. Some of the things that we take for granted, something that's so small as to washing your hands with soap. And so with that in itself, we're going to learn something so challenging and small about things that we take for granted. But I want you to hear this first quote that I wrote down. It says this: the problem wasn't knowledge, right? It wasn't the knowledge that they were missing, but the problem was consistency. So that goes along with our creating a habit. The whole cardinal rule of behavior changes. It's not the problem of knowledge, it's consistency. So it's this constant reminder of how many times are you trying this, how many times are you staying with it? Are you giving up? Are you quitting on something you're trying? Whether it's as a team, as a leader, as an individual, we need to ask ourselves things like, we need to ask ourselves and things that we're trying to accomplish, am I or are we doing this consistently? And one of the things I've learned talking with companies and people and individuals and helping them is this is probably the biggest struggle for individual companies is they get complacent we get complacent. This is in my life too. We get complacent because we have some success or we make some money, we get some results, right? And so we get complacent, and then what happens? We stop being consistent in the things that got us there. And we have to practice those consistencies because it's going to get us to the next step. So again, the problem isn't knowledge because we know the things, but the problem is consistency in our lives. So I got to ask you, are you being consistent with the things you're trying to start and maybe lead your team towards? Listen to this. It says, we are more likely to repeat a behavior when the experience is satisfying. And that's, this whole section 4 is make it satisfying. He says, this is entirely logical. Feeling of pleasure, even minor ones like washing your hands with soap, that smells nice and loud as well, are signals that tell the brain, this feels good, do this again next time. So if we think about this, the small acts, like what small acts do we need to do that you and I know we need to do that will provide a feeling of accomplishment at like a minute level? So think about the smallest things that you and I can do that can provide like small wins is what I want to get at. Because if you do those consistently, they're going to build up. Like I would say waking up 30 minutes earlier. If you wake up at 8, try to wake up at 7:30. Don't try. Wake up at 7:30 because that's a small win. Maybe 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes earlier. And just see how that feels, because it goes, hey, that's satisfying. I woke up earlier, I got something else done. Leaving the house 10 minutes earlier. Maybe you leave at 7 a.m. or 7:30 or 7:45. Try leaving earlier. And if you take your kids to school, try going earlier, like 5 minutes earlier, wake them up earlier. So that can build new habits. Maybe you don't have time to read as a family or pray or whatever you guys do. Or maybe you start something the night before, like reading 2 pages before you go to bed, reading something, period, that day. Taking a 10-minute walk, working out, eating a healthy meal for 1 of your 3 meals, eating fruits or vegetables that day. Again, this whole feeling of making it satisfying starts small. Where's something small like washing your hands that you can start that will build and build and build? You go, man, that feels good, so I'm going to continue to do it. Again, just a 10-minute walk, a 5-minute walk, waking up early. What's an action step that I can take today that's so small that I can build off of? And that's one of the action steps that we're going to have at the end of this podcast is what small act do I need to do this week that I can repeat? And I'm going to talk about just something small that you can build off of and compound off of. So listen to this small statement, but it carries a lot of weight. It says incentives can start a habit. So an incentive can start a habit. An incentive meaning, Like when we have a team and we say, hey, I'm going to give you an incentive to do this, to sell more, to do this. He says incentives can start a habit. Identity sustains a habit. Listen to it again. Incentives can start a habit, but identity sustains a habit. Think through, why you motivate your team. So if we're a leader, why do I motivate my team? Is it to get results and give them a prize or a trophy or a ribbon or whatever? Or is it because you're concerned about their personal development and growth and who they are? The latter is going to get them to a better place as human beings. So if they leave, they're better off who they are because they worked with you, for you, and underneath you. And as a leader, you always want to, give them incentives, but more so, you want to be more in tune with personal development and giving them something that they can take and go, hey, this provides my identity. So Made for More is huge on who you are and not what you do. We always talk about when you start goal setting, start with who you want to be, not what you want to do. So are your habits putting a vote into who you want to be or just what you want to do or what you want to accomplish? So think through that again. Incentives can start a habit, but identity sustains them. So is your habit putting a vote into who you're becoming or just what you want to accomplish? Think through those things. Think through the benefits of who you want to be is more likely to be repeated and stick with you rather than what you accomplish. And we're going to talk about that as an action step. What small act do I need to do this week that I can repeat? And that's just chapter 15, the Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. So the whole chapter can be summed up in the fact of doing something small that you can repeat and repeat and repeat, and that it puts a vote into who you are. So that was chapter 15. Chapter 16, and this section's small, it's only 3 chapters. And it feels kind of odd because I'm talking to you one-on-one rather than with Adina. And I'm, just curious as to what she'd say about these. But we got to remember again that the cardinal rule of behavior change is consistency, consistency, consistency. Don't quit, continue to try things. And then if you haven't done anything consistent, then try to just start small. Read 1 page, walk for 5 minutes, do 2 push-ups instead of 10. And again, you'll get there, but consistency is the key. That whole cardinal rule of behavior change. Chapter 16 says this: how to stick with good habits every day. How to stick with good habits is the chapter 16. Now, here's what I got to tell you about this chapter. This chapter reminds me that every book typically has a chapter that kind of speaks to me more than any other chapter. I just have to say this chapter is that for me. It really was. It was one that I would say, if you don't have the book, you need to go get it and read chapter 16. He opens up the chapter talking about the paperclip strategy. So if you don't know this, you can take 2 jars, put about, he said that the gentleman had about 200 paperclips, in 1 jar. And then he had an empty jar next to it. So as he picked up the phone and made a sales call, he would move 1 paperclip to the next jar. And then he'd call again, and move another paperclip. So at the end of the day, he would see that he had moved all these paper clips, and that's how productive he was. And that's when we continue to talk about this 4th law of make it satisfying. Because you and I, when we see something, we get motivated. When we see progress, right, we get motivated. And that's what this chapter 16 is how to stick with good habits. The paperclip strategy is what it's called. And he introduces something called habit tracking. So if you're tracking how many paper clips you move over to from 1 jar to the other, again, that's a way to track something, right? And so he introduces this thing called habit tracking, and I'll explain that in a second. But if you think about it, for you and I, how do you respond when you get your first, or how did you respond when you get your first paycheck, right? When you worked 40 hours, 30 hours, 15 hours, and you get your first paycheck, whether it was cash or check or whatever, whether it was direct deposit. For me back in the day, I remember working with my dad, and he would give me cash, and I'd go spend it really quick. But that feeling of, this is what I got because this is what I did. It was, and it wasn't instant, but here we're talking about habit. The habit tracking is as soon as you do something, mark it down. As soon as you do something, mark it down so that you can see that you're tracking your habit and accomplishing something. And when you see that over time, you go, you know what, this feels good. It's satisfying to see that I've accomplished this. So if you can see what happens because you do something, you're more likely to repeat it. And this is when he talks about tracking habits, tracking and seeing what your habit does for you. And listen to what he says right here. He says, making progress is satisfying. A visual measure like moving paper clips or hairpins or marbles provide clear evidence of your progress. As a result, they reinforce your behavior and add a little bit of immediate satisfaction to an activity. So one of the things that I like to do is just look at the calendar that I have on my workout app, and I've closed, I think, we're coming up on Sunday, so I think I'm up to, I'm trying to think what, 12 times 7 is 84, so I'm coming up on 84 straight days that I've worked out twice a day. So for 84 days, I've done it twice. But what's awesome is going up and just scrolling through the calendar of my ring app, or my rings on my app, or my fitness app. It closes the rings. And so for 84 days, I've closed those rings, and that's satisfying because I see where I've gone, I see where I started, I see the date that I started, I can see the progress, not only on that calendar, but also in the measurements that I'm measuring. So yeah, that's just an example. When we see something that we're tracking, a habit tracker, you begin to go, hey, I can see this, so I'm gonna repeat it. Again, one of the things that you can do is just get a small calendar and put X's when you start a habit. Hey, you know what, I wanna walk for 5 minutes. Just put an X on the calendar and think about, if you're a person that, like me, I love a to-do list and just marking things off. And even if I don't have it on my to-do list, I like putting it on there so I can mark through and say, hey, I got that done. You're tracking what you're doing, you're tracking progress. So if you can track that progress, you see what you've done, and at the end of the day, when you see what you've done, you go, hey, this is what I've accomplished. And what happens when you accomplish something, you're more likely to repeat it. So he talks about the habit tracker, actually builds off the past 3 steps that we've been talking about, these last 3 chapters that or sections that we've been talking about. He talks about how the workout tracker or the habit tracker relates to him. And so he says habit tracking is, and here it is, the first one was obvious. So habit tracking is obvious. This is what he says. Habit tracking naturally builds a series of visual cues, like the streaks of X's on your calendar or a list of meals on your food log. When you look at the calendar and you see your streak, you'll be reminded to act. So first thing that I look at every morning when I wake up and I don't want to get out of bed is that calendar, to go, man, look at the rings I've closed. I don't want to miss a workout because I got to close the next thing. It's obvious, right? So that's what he's saying. Keeping track of our habits by visually marking X on something, it makes you want to act. It makes you go, I got to finish this. I got to stay with it. I don't want to quit because I want to see the progress. And when you continue to do that, it becomes a habit. You start to see the changes. And it all started with making it obvious by tracking your habits. The second one was, remember he said, second law was make it attractive. So he said habit tracking is attractive. The most effective form of motivation is progress. When we get a signal that we are moving forward, we become more motivated to continue down that path. And this way, habit tracking can have an addictive effect on motivation. Each small win feeds your desire. So to put plain and simple, when we see that we're moving forward, we want to keep that up, we want to keep going, we want to keep repeating it, and that's why it becomes attractive. So when you and I see progress, whether that's our body weight, whether that's the meals that we've eaten, whether that's the workout rings we've closed, when we see that, it becomes attractive and we want to continue to do it. So far, habit tracking can affect our making it obvious, making it attractive, and then last week we talked about or this week we're talking about making it satisfying, and he says habit tracking is satisfying. And here's the thing, this is where he talks about the most crucial benefit. He said this is the most crucial benefit of all. Habit tracking also helps keeping your eye on the ball. You're focused on progress rather than the result. Remember, listen to that. He says you're focused on the process rather than the result. You're not fixed on getting a 6-pack abs. You're just trying to keep the streak alive and become the type of person who doesn't miss a workout. So when you make it satisfying, you begin to see something and you go, hey, it's not that I want that goal. It's because I want to stay on the process of becoming the person that I'm trying to become. I'm trying to stay on this track of getting there. Again, this is where we see visual proof of our habits working. It builds in us. It's tracking it, and he gives us a habit tracker template if you want to go look at it, and it's at atomichabits.com/tracker. And he said that you can use that. It's a easy way. It's a template for a habit tracker. And then he begins to talk to us in this chapter also. So that's the pros of having a habit tracker, what it does to your life, how you can see it, how you visualize things, and how that can help you build these habits. But then he goes into talking about tracking the wrong areas of habits and what happens when you do that. So make sure that you pick up this book, because I'm not going to go into every single one of them. I don't think I can. I wanted to go over the pros because that matters more. The cons are really important, like numbers. If you're leading a team, are you focused on the wrong? Are you looking at the wrong? Are you tracking the wrong habits rather than the good ones? So you want to make sure that you go pick this book, read chapter 16. He then talks about when we miss tracking a workout or miss tracking the wrong thing. Like what happens when you miss a workout or you miss marking something off because you never do it that day. So check out what he says here. He says, he says the first mistake is never the one that ruins you. The first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is a spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. So think about that. So many times I think that because I missed something, I'm in trouble, or I go, man, I got to redo that and I'll start next week because I just missed this first time. Really, we just got to get back up on the horse and ride it, right? We just got to go, hey, like I fell off, get back up on there, don't quit. And if we begin to quit, he says it begins a new habit, and quitting can compound faster than any other habit. Once you quit the first time, think about what happens. You continue to go, hey, I'm going to quit. I'm going to be a quitter. I can't believe that I quit this habit. I can't believe that I quit eating carbs. I can't believe that I can't believe that I started eating carbs again, so I'm just going to quit the diet. So you see what I'm saying? Quitting can start this whole new compound of a new habit. So again, he says missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. So what he explains about in this chapter is when you miss something, just realize that you missed it once and just start over as soon as you can. Don't quit. Don't give in to that temptation of going, hey, I got to start next week, or I can start next month, or now I got to restart everything. Don't stop. Just continue to go and compound the good, not the bad. So this chapter 16, I think is probably one of the best ones in this book. I want us to ask ourselves, can I benefit from tracking my habits? And it's going to be an action step as well. And here's the other part is, do we even track them? Do you and I track our habits? Can I benefit from it? If not, can I start this week? Can I get an actual small calendar that I carry and mark days off as I start a habit? Those are things that I think we can see and visualize that are going to help us continue to do something over and over again, so you can visually get something that's satisfying, which is this whole law. The fourth step is how do I feel when I finish at the end of the day and I make that mark on the calendar? So we'll talk about that in a little bit on the action steps. And then the last chapter in this section, I think it's funny because if you've listened to any of our podcasts, you know I cannot stand the word accountability partner. And I got to tell you that when I was reading this chapter, I wrote this down before I read the chapter. I said, I'm not sure I even want to dive into this chapter because I hate the thought of an accountability partner, or even that word, because of what it makes us feel and what it makes us not do because someone didn't tell us what we missed, or why they didn't hold us accountable. So if you want a whole take on why I feel that way, I don't know. I think the accountability partner mentality, accountability to me comes across as a crutch. Like I need this to get to this place, so I need an accountability partner to get me here. But what are you going to do when your accountability partner doesn't show up because they're sick or they have a family issue? Are you not going to follow through? And I think that's where I said, sometimes you need crutches in life, right? To walk because you get hurt. Sometimes we need accountability to start something. But the most important accountable person that we can be accountable to is ourselves. And I think that's why the way I feel about accountability, I'd rather just take ownership, because if the person that I'm trying to be accountable to doesn't show up, or doesn't really care, or is just a friend and really doesn't matter to them, it's going to show. And then I'm stuck not doing something because they won't hold me accountable, and then I'm upset with them, and then I put the blame on that, and I just stop doing something that I want to do. So I will say this, is I am not a fan of this chapter. I don't agree with it, And I think it's okay to say you don't agree with something. You probably don't agree with me as far as the whole accountability thing, but I think to me, I would rather say I take ownership of my actions and I don't need accountability, because if I need accountability, then that means I'm looking for an out. I may need accountability to start something, but I don't want accountability forever. I need to take ownership of my life. So with that, chapter 17, chapter 17 is how an accountability partner can change everything. So disagree with this chapter, and honestly, I didn't have many notes. It was the shortest chapter in the section. I don't have many notes, but I'll read you what he has at the end of the chapter. He says the inversion of the fourth law. So at the end of every section, he does the inversion. So the fourth law is make it satisfying, right? So the inversion of that law is to make it unsatisfying, meaning add consequences to your life. Or he talks about making have an accountability partner and signing some contract, and with like, hey, if I don't do this, I owe you $100. I'm gonna pay you $500. And really, again, if I have to pay someone $500 because I didn't complete my meal plan, then I was never bought in on it. That's the reason I have a problem with accountability. But anyways, the next thing he said is we're less likely to repeat a bad habit if it isn't a painful and unsatisfying. We're less likely to repeat a bad habit if it is painful and unsatisfying. So if you have some habits that are unsatisfying, you're more likely that you're not going to repeat that. An accountability partner can create an immediate cost to inaction. We care deeply about what others think of us, and we do not want others to have a lesser opinion of us. Again, just reading that, that's where identity comes into me, going, if I have full confidence in myself, not conceit, why the flip do I need an accountability partner? That whole statement right there of we care deeply about what others think, I totally get it. But there's an identity problem if that's all that I count on. Identity, I think, should be separated from accountability, because if I have an identity crisis, yes, and I care about what other people think, and I want you to keep me accountable. If I take ownership in my actions and I have confidence in who I am, then I'm going to do what I say, and I'm going to say that I'm going to do this, I'm going to go do it. If I fall, then I'll take ownership that I didn't accomplish it. And then I got to look internally at my identity and go, hey, there's an issue here that's missing and lacking. I need to fix that. So not even supportive of we care deeply about what others think of us, and we do not want others to have lesser opinion of us. I could care less what most people think of me. I've learned some things about criticism. When someone says something about you, hey, who is it? Is there any truth in it? Take ownership of what's truth in it. Tell them thank you and move on. There's some people close to me that, I do care about what they think, but in the end, they're probably not taking the path that I'm taking. They're probably not even doing the things that I'm doing. So if I take ownership of what I'm doing and they say, hey, you should do this, do that, cool, thanks for your input. Maybe it helps. Maybe they say something that you can alter in your process. But if they don't, say, hey, thanks for your input. I'll think about that. But really, ownership over accountability, we're going to have that coming out at some point. He says a habit contract can be used to add a social cost to any behavior. It makes the cost of violating your promises public and painful. He talked about a guy that a tweet would automatically go out if he didn't get up and it'd say, hey, I'm lazy and all this. Again, if I need that, then why am I even going to say I'm going to work out twice a day? If I need something to go out and say, hey, I didn't wake up because I'm lazy, why do I need that accountability? Because I obviously need to learn ownership, not accountability. So again, last thing he says is knowing that someone else is watching you can be a powerful motivator. I think I take that one a little bit different. I take that as influence, not as accountability. I think that can be very powerful. My daughters, for example, if I'm talking about creating a list, my daughter this week, my older daughter, went and got a journal that she keeps to-do lists, and I taught her what prioritize and execute meant, like, hey, writing a list and then putting it in order and then knocking it out. and taking that to school and taking that to each class and writing down what the teacher says, so that when she says, hey, this is due tomorrow, I'll put that down. And what I saw was in her little notebook, she had check marks next to the things she did, but it starts with a habit. And she's seen that I know I do that. I know my wife does it to some extent, but she knows that for me, it's right here, actually. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see, for me, it's right here, this little notebook that I got at Target, and just put a couple stickers on it. I just write down things and mark them off. And then if there's something left over, I transport it to the online to-do list that I have, and I just got to knock it out. But the notebook's carried with me so that I can write things down. But I do know people are watching me, because when someone asks, hey, what are you writing down? Hey, it's just the things I got to get done. So, sorry, Adina's not here for this, because we would probably get into the fact that we are not fans of accountability. The word accountability, or, I just got to say accountability partner. You can disagree with me, but that's not something that I would put my time into. Meeting with people and talking through things, great. Having a community of people that believe the same way and challenge you, great. But as far as me asking you to keep me accountable and me having to pay you for something because I don't do something, is an easy way for me to just honestly say, I don't believe in myself. I don't think I want to do that. And honestly, it's saying it's not important enough for me to do it. So why don't I just, instead of saying I need an accountability partner, is, hey, I need to take ownership of this part of my life, and I need to eat better. I need to. And if I don't get there and I'm getting bigger, then here's the issue. Issues with me. It's not with you, me paying you money because I didn't eat right or whatever. The issues with me. I have to learn ownership. I could keep going about this, guys, and I'm talking to myself. I don't even have Adina or Etiana or my wife or Tyler here with us, but again, I would challenge your thinking about accountability and accountability partner, and think through, is this because, and I had to think through this, is this because I've been hurt or burned in the past, or because I don't believe in it? And on the other side, I'd ask you to think, is he wrong because this is the way I've always believed? Or just think through that, because I got to think through both sides as well. That's just my personal belief. It's I don't ever want to say, hey, I need you to keep me accountable on this. So yeah, that was this section of make it satisfying. And I think that chapter 16 is solid. The whole tracker. I think we should definitely track our habits, but don't forget that you can go to atomichabits.com/cheat sheet, download a cheat sheet there. And I love what he does is he breaks down each section of the book, each let me look at it real quick, each section, each law that he's taught us. So it says like how to create a good habit. The first law is make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and today was make it satisfying. And then he goes on to tell us how to break bad habits, make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. And so he breaks it down. There's quite a bit of stuff. So I'd go on there, atomichabits.com/cheat sheet, download that. So tonight, I think I have 3 steps for you, 3 action steps I want us to really move on this week. And I'd love to try this whole tracking a new habit with a calendar. But here's what I wrote down. What small act do I need to do this week that I can repeat? Small act. Read 2 pages, read 1 page, wake up 5 minutes earlier, or 10, leave earlier. What small habit do you know that will get you to a better place that you need to act on? Maybe it's spending more time with your family. Maybe it's initiating a conversation. As far as leading a team, I think through the fact that maybe we need to have a discussion that doesn't have anything to do about work. Hey, where are your wins? Where are your losses? What small habit do you need to start? And you can put a check mark saying, hey, this week I actually talked to every one of my employees. This week I talked to every one of my leads. This week I talked to every one of my general managers, my contractors, whatever it is. What small act do you need to repeat this week? That's action step number 1. Second one is small actions. The next action step is number 2. Can I benefit from tracking my habit? We need to ask ourselves, could I benefit from tracking them? Can I get it? Should a habit tracker even be a part of my life? And if it is, then go get a small calendar, carry it around, and mark off, hey, I took a walk today. Hey, I took a walk the next day, the next. And at the end of the week, see how that makes you feel. At the end of the day, the first day when you do it, see how it feels when you mark that down and put that X over that day that you do it. And then the last action step was, do I need to take ownership and stop blaming others for not following through? Just think through that. Do I need to stop blaming others, and do I need to take ownership of what I didn't follow through on? 3 action steps. If you're watching on YouTube, I use my hands a lot. So number 1, what small act do I need to do that I can repeat? Number 2, do I need to track my habits, and can I get a habit tracker? Number 3, do I need to take ownership instead of accountability? So hey, this is an interesting night because it's, let me see, it's past midnight, so it's actually Sunday. I'm gonna load this and try to get this ready to go for today. But yeah, I appreciate you guys letting me do this. I apologize to Adina, Etiana, my wife, and Tyler, and those that help out get this started, that I didn't do this sooner. It was an interesting week. Had some things go on personally that I didn't see coming, but part of taking ownership is just saying, hey, it's my fault. I didn't do this. I didn't get ahead. So I'm gonna knock this out. We got one more chapter in this book, and we got an interview with a good friend of ours that's coming up. So yeah, missed the team not being here. Hopefully I didn't wake anybody up. And do me a couple favors is please follow us on social media, Made for More Consulting, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you go to our website, madeformoreconsulting.com, that's with the number 4 in there. Check out the merch page. Buy a hat, buy a shirt, give someone a hat, give someone a shirt that says Motivate, Inspire, and Encourage, or you can see the logo on one of them. But the biggest thing that I would ask is, 1, leave a review. If you can leave a review on YouTube, on iTunes, wherever you listen to this podcast, if you can just go and leave a review, 5-star, whatever you feel like saying, please leave a review. That helps us. And then the last one is, if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, I'd go in and go to YouTube, type in Made for More Consulting or Motivate, Inspire, and Encourage, look up our channel, hit subscribe, because we're going to be putting out some videos soon about what we offer for people, what people benefit from maybe signing up for services with us, and how they're getting better. So, and all our podcasts are there, starting from, I can't remember what number, but we record them just like I'm recording right now, and we upload them. So you can see what we all look like and what our room looks like and what we're doing. But yeah, so check us out, leave a review, buy some merch, and follow us. And just like we end every podcast, I love saying that, remember, you exist for more. You're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. Later. Hey guys, it's late. I gotta make sure that I don't do this again, because I hate doing this alone. And when I burp, there's no one else to talk to. So appreciate you guys hanging with me here on YouTube. And episode 36, we are just about to surpass 3,500 downloads. Such an awesome thing. So thanks for joining us. I hope you guys have a great Sunday. And with it being the end of September 11th, just never forget. And remember the people that paid the sacrifice for us to live the way we live, the freedom that we have, and try to provide a little bit more unity the way we lived the next day after this happened. And we ended up showing up at churches. We ended up being there for one another, talking to one another. So hope you guys have a good night, and we'll see you later.